Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and welcome to Global Atheist News Roundup, dateline 22nd of April 2023. This week's headlines. Why are there two Easters? The Archbishop of Canterbury says, do not lose heart over conflicts. The Democratic Union Party co-founder welcomes a United Ireland discussion. Almost 80 die in a Ramadan crush at Sanaa school. A Kenyan cult results in 4 deaths after a suspected starvation plot. A Cardiff Mum is accused of killing her toddler through fasting. Why does the monarch need a coronation? The Arizona court upholds clergy privilege in child abuse cases. The US Supreme Court delays the abortion pill restricted access decision. For millions of people around the world, Easter falls on Sunday, the 16th of April, 2023, this year. But Orthodox Christians in Europe, Africa, and the Middle East celebrate Easter later than most in the Western world. It's because they use a different calendar to work out what day Easter should fall on. Both Orthodox Easter and Easter Sunday are Christian festivals when believers celebrate the resurrection of Jesus. It's the most important festival in the Christian calendar. In Eastern Orthodox Christianity, the preparations begin with Great Lent, 40 days of reflection and fasting, which starts on Clean Monday and ends on Lazarus Saturday. Clean Monday refers to believers being cleaned of their sins during Lent, and Lazarus Saturday falls 8 days before Easter Sunday and signifies the end of Great Lent, although the fasting continues into Holy Week. Next comes Palm Sunday, 1 week before Easter, remembering the entry of Jesus Christ into Jerusalem, followed by Holy Week, which ends on Easter Sunday. I hope you're taking notes because there will be a test later on. Orthodox churches in some countries, including Greece, Cyprus, and Romania, base their Easter date on the Julian calendar, which was designed by Roman Emperor Julius Caesar in 45 BC, basing a year on the time it takes the sun to go round the earth. It doesn't. The Gregorian calendar was created by Pope Gregory in 1582 to fix some of the glitches in the Julian calendar as astronomy became more accurate. Also in the Eastern Orthodox Church, Easter must happen after the Jewish festival of Passover. As in the Easter story, Jesus celebrates Passover before his death, and in 2023, Passover ended on the 13th of April. Clear? Preaching at Canterbury Cathedral on Easter Sunday, Justin Welby said that true peace is no aimless daydream. The resurrection teaches Christians that life triumphs over death and light over darkness, he added. He also warned that those who oppress and subjugate others will face divine justice. He paid tribute to the extraordinary, courageous work of so many men and women involved in reaching the Belfast Agreement, also known as the Good Friday Agreement, which was signed 25 years ago. Indeed, it was churches and monasteries compelled by the living Christs who spent years before 1998 secretly, at huge risk, building the bridges that opened the way for the first ceasefires and considerations of peace in the Irish Troubles, Mr. Welby said. Founding DUP member Wallace Thompson says a possible united Ireland should be debated openly and honestly. He said, given changing religious demographics, he would be open to conversations about unity. The former DUP special advisor and evangelical Protestant said those who wanted a united Ireland needed to broaden their base. Mr. Thompson said he remained a unionist, but his faith was much bigger than that. In 1912, when Home Rule was being spoken of, our forefathers believed that Home Rule would be Rome Rule. He said that 100 years on, that's completely changed, and secularization has played a big role. When asked about the possibility of a united Ireland, Mr. Thompson said there was an opportunity for debate. At least 78 people were killed in a crush at a school in Yemen's rebel-held capital, Sanaa, during a charity event for Ramadan, officials say. The incident began after hundreds crowded into a narrow street in the Bab al-Yemen area late on Wednesday to get handouts of $9, £7, from a merchant. Video showed people screaming for help and others trying to pull them free. Later footage appeared to show dozens of bodies on the ground, as well as shoes and clothing strewn over steps. Kenyan police are investigating the deaths of 4 people suspected to have starved to death on the orders of the leader of a controversial cult. Pastor Mackenzie Ntenge is alleged to have told his followers in the coastal area of Kilifi to starve themselves in the hope of getting to heaven more quickly. Following a tip-off, police found 15 seriously ill people on Thursday, but only 11 made it to hospital alive. Police are also looking into reports of a mass grave in a nearby forest. Last month, Mr. Nhenge was charged in connection with the deaths of 2 children whose parents had joined his Good News International church. He pleaded not guilty and was released on bail. The current whereabouts of the pastor are not clear. Police said they began their search for followers of the Good News International Church after receiving intelligence that ignorant citizens were starving to death in pretext to meet Jesus after being brainwashed by a suspect. A mum killed her 3-year-old son through religious fasting during the COVID lockdown, a Cardiff court has heard. Olabisi Abubakar, 42, was found thin, malnourished and dehydrated on a sofa bed alongside her son Taiwo in June 2020. Cardiff Crown Court heard the little boy weighed just 9.8 kilos, 1 stone 5 pounds, and had died of malnutrition and dehydration. Ms. Abubakar denies manslaughter and neglect charges. Prosecutor Mark Haywood, KC, told the jury on Thursday that a friend of Ms. Abubakar raised the alarm when he was unable to contact her. Mr. Haywood said police forced open the door of her flat in Cardiff to find a tragic and distressing scene. He said Mrs. Abubakar had consciously and deliberately neglected Taiwo by failing to provide food and water and by forcing him to fast with her. He also said that she suffered delusions as a result of suffering from paranoid schizophrenia. There is evidence that as a result of that delusional state, she may not have noticed the physical acts, Mr. Haywood said. The court heard Ms. Abubakar was a Pentecostal Christian who believed fasting was important to her faith. But the court was told that children are not expected to take part in the fasts. Ms. Abu Bakr told police she did not remember anything from the 3 days before the police forced entry to her flat. She believed she had been in heaven because she could see relatives who had died and heard angels singing. She said she didn't want to die and the angels brought her back to life, Mr. Hayward said. Ms. Abu Bakr was described as being very concerned by the dangers posed by COVID-19 and rarely left her flat. In just a few weeks' time, millions of people across the UK will witness a rare event. While we may be used to the pomp, crowds and street parties that accompany royal celebrations and jubilees, it's been 70 years since we've seen a coronation. This is an entirely different affair, littered with curiosities, a medieval oath, holy oil poured onto a 12th century spoon, and a 700-year-old chair housing a stone that supposedly roared when it recognized the rightful monarch. Some experts liken a coronation to a wedding, but instead of a spouse, the monarch is being married to the state. If all this sounds like something from a bygone age, it's because coronation ceremonies in the UK have changed little over the past 1,000 years. By law, there's no need for them, as the monarch succeeds automatically on the death of their predecessor. But they're a symbolic gesture that formalises the monarch's commitment to the role, says Dr. George Groves, who is leading a research project on coronations at King's College, London. The Arizona Supreme Court has ruled that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints can refuse to answer questions or turn over documents under a state law that exempts religious officials from having to report child sex abuse if they learn of the crime during a confessional setting. A lawsuit filed by child sex abuse victims accuses the church, widely known as the Mormon Church, 2 of its bishops and other church members of conspiracy and negligence in not reporting church member Paul Adams for abusing his older daughter as early as 2010. This negligence, the lawsuit argues, allowed Adams to continue abusing the girl for as many as 7 years, a time in which he also abused the girl's infant sister. Lynn Cadogan, an attorney for the Adams children who filed the lawsuit, criticised the court's ruling. Unfortunately, this ruling expands the clergy privilege beyond what the legislature intended by allowing churches to conceal crimes against children, she said. In a statement, the church concurred with the court's action. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints agrees with the Arizona Supreme Court's decision, the statement said. We are deeply saddened by the abuse these children suffered. The church has no tolerance of abuse of any kind. Adams had also posted videos of himself sexually abusing his daughters on the internet, boasting of the abuse on social media, and confessed to federal law enforcement agents who arrested him in 2017 with no help from the church. Clergy in Arizona, as in many other states, are required to report information about child sexual abuse or neglect to law enforcement or child welfare authorities. An exception to that law, known as the clergy penitent privilege, allows members of the clergy who learn of the abuse through spiritual confessions to keep the information secret. The church has based its defense in the lawsuit on that privilege. An Associated Press investigation of the clergy privilege shows it exists in 33 states, and that the Mormon Church, often joined by the Catholic Church, Jehovah's Witnesses, and other faiths, have successfully lobbied against attempts to reform or eliminate it. The US Supreme Court has extended until Friday a temporary block on limits to access of a popular abortion pill. A Texas judge suspended approval of abortion drug mifepristone on the 7th of April, questioning its safety. It's been used for 20 years. Parts of that decision were upheld on appeal, prompting the Biden administration to make an emergency request to the Supreme Court. It's the most significant such case since the Supreme Court last year ended the nationwide right to abortion. The pill, used in more than half of abortions in the US, was first approved by the Food and Drug Administration more than 2 decades ago. The appeals court agreed to keep the drug on the market, but with additional restrictions. This week's Free Thought Hour guest is David McKnight, who is a humanist and is for science. He has a Facebook group and is looking for administrators. And don't forget to watch Views on the News, our panel show about this very news. This has been Global Atheist News. The GAN team will be back next week. Thanks for watching.
Hello, my name is David McKnight and I'm here to advertise the coming of a 1-hour podcast. It will be about what science can do for us in the future. Can it actually help fade religion away? You actually saw me modelling what could be the PPE of future science teachers. In fact, we want you all to be science teachers and to join in helping teaching each other. The point is, it could be something that actually puts a smile on your face, a science lesson, even a science exam, because everything needs to change. We want everyone to help teach each other. So you could be involved in this, and you could contribute to Humanists for Science, which will contain many different suggestions, theories, discussions, and exciting science discoveries. One point to leave with you: what are these blankets doing here? What are they for? I will explain that on Humanists for Science. Thanks for watching.